Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Just first question to Greenpeace, and in the interest of time, I'll put the rest of my questions on notice and keep it quite brief. Now, in your schedule of proposed expenditure, there was a gas export levy which was in place in 2022, and you mentioned household electricity bill relief as one way for that revenue to be used. You'd be aware that the government ran an electricity subsidy until the end of last year. In your opinion, how should the government balance short-term relief measures with medium and long-term projects which structurally reduce the cost of electricity?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Payman. And I was wondering if someone was going to pull me up on that because there were like two different versions of subsidising electricity. This is not a thorough policy proposal on how to spend that money. I'd be happy to meet with any of you and give you a thorough policy proposal. It's merely an illustration, a contrast, if you like, between what it could be spent on and where it's currently going, which is to these companies and to their shareholders and to Donald Trump in many ways. So I don't think we need to get into the detail of it, but my opinion on that is that structural decarbonisation, especially of households and medium-sized businesses, is the best way of lowering bills over the long term. And for every, I think the best way of producing gas is by using less gas. For everyone you can get off an amount of gas in Australia, that saves all of us from the pollution, but also the cost and the supply. So I support all kinds of decarbonisation measures, and I think this government's actually done some good stuff in that area.
Thank you. And just to Ms O, Lean obviously represents everyday Labor members, nurses, teachers, tradies, people who join the party to fight for a fair go. Yet in my home state of Western Australia, we've seen the Albanese government approve the North-West Shelf extension, and that's basically, locking in decades more of gas exports where companies pay next to nothing back to the Australian public. Now, those same companies are also spending billions of dollars in profits overseas they're sending billions of dollars in profits overseas. And that's coming at a time when Australians are struggling with power bills and rising cost of living. Now, you've said that in previous answers that this is uncontroversial within Labor membership and there's broad support for reform. So I'd love to know, how does a Labor government justify continuing to protect gas company profits when its own members that you represent and that you're hearing from every day? And as a former Labor senator, I know how important these conversations are. How are we justifying that? And, especially to people who join the Labor Party, particularly for those broad reforms to take place?
Well, Senator, I can't speak for the government. I can only say that, as you know from your time in Labor, Lean sees its role as working within the party to encourage the government to pay attention to the concerns of its members on environmental and climate issues. And we work very hard every day to convey those messages. The extent to which the government adopts them, we understand the government has to balance a lot of policy issues. They have to deal with a lot of issues that we don't necessarily see the full complexity of. At the same time, our role is clearly to convey those concerns of the membership into the government and to encourage them to take measures that will meet those concerns, and particularly to implement their platform commitments.
Platform commitment. Great segue to my next question. I've had many Labor members come to me and raise, their concerns about the upcoming budget, for example. So how would you explain what the government's doing? I understand that you'd be working internally to make change happen, but how do you explain that to members who are disgruntled or disillusioned with the amount of progress? It's great to have in the party platform, but when it comes to implementation of it, and when it's everyday Australians paying the price, like, how do you what do you tell those members, basically?
Well, Senator, you all know that Lean does not see its role as defending government policy, particularly if we don't agree with it. I think there have been a number of instances where we may have been more or less vocal in the public on that. We are certainly quite vocal within the party. What I would say to members is we're not going to win every fight, and we're not going to win every fight every time. But if we keep working and we keep organising and we keep making our case, then we have won a lot of very significant fights over time, and we will continue to do that. I mean, our theory of change clearly as Labor members is that we believe that working within a party that is in government enables us to influence what is, or gives us a better chance of influencing what gets on the agenda and what actually gets implemented. We understand this is not linear, and we understand that we're not going to win every time. But if we continue and we continue to organise, and you, given your previous union background, will understand this, you don't win every fight, but you stay organised and you improve your organisation, and eventually you are going to win some big things.
Let's hope the government's listening, and I just think this is the perfect opportunity for us to have some bold reforms. And thank you so much for the evidence you've provided. Thank you, Chair. That's all.